Hello my YouTube friends, I hope this finds you well. This is Supernova with another installment of the Supernova book reviews, and today we're going to be talking about A Song of Fire and Ice, the first novel, A Game of Thrones, by George R.R. Martin. I cannot tell you how much I loved this novel. For 2.5 weeks, I was inundating myself only with the circumstances of the characters and situations of this world. I wanted nothing else in my life. And I read half of this book, went back to the beginning, read the full thing, and I suggest it as a reading strategy for this novel, mainly because there are so many characters and so many situations diverging and converging with each other that doing it at the beginning isn't as necessary. However, once you get to the second half of the novel and you have all these characters clashing together, pun intended if you've read the second portion of this series, once you get to that second portion, all these things happen and compound on each other, and it could get a little bit confusing. So I was very thankful to have taken that strategy of a half reading and then a full reading. So A Game of Thrones follows the circumstances of the Stark family, who are basically being brought in by the king after the king's hand, his right-hand man, what they call the king's hand, after the king's hand has been murdered, the Starks are brought in to take over the position, and Ned Stark, the king of Winterfell, or the king of the North, is taking it upon himself to learn what happened to the previous hand, Jon Arryn. This book is riddled. That's a diligently chosen word, deliberately chosen word. The book is riddled with characters very deeply developed, and circumstances, plots and subplots and twists and mystery. A Game of Thrones is primarily considered a fantasy novel. However, there are major elements of mystery and just immense drama. In every single character storyline, there's a wealth of drama and intrigue and what's happening and why these things are happening. And George R.R. Martin does an amazing job of giving you just enough information, yet withholding enough information to keep you so interested and on the edge of your seat, quite literally on the edge of your seat, that there's no choice in life other than to finish this novel. You're not going to eat dinner, you're not going to sleep, you're just going to want to read this novel. The book is a little bit unorthodox in how it is composed. Most novels have chapter 1, chapter 2, part 1, part... This is just straight through. And the chapters are titled as the character the chapter follows. So, and George R.R. Martin was actually revered quite a bit for this technique because it works so wonderfully with this storyline. But he follows about 7 different characters at once, and each chapter follows a different character titled under their name. And this adds a wonderful element of the mystery that he's creating, because while one thing is happening to Jon, another thing is happening to Ned, and something else is happening to Arya, and as all these things, like a symphony, as all these things are building up, and Arya and Sansa and Jon and Ned and Robert, all these things are coming together and they crescendo at wonderfully paced points in the novel. And hats off to Martin for being able to do that. I can't imagine how much premeditated energy it took to orchestrate that. So there's a wonderful element in that. In the novel, he, like most fantasy novels, he gives you a map at the beginning, and throughout the novel, you're constantly flipping from the beginning of the novel, where you have the different maps, and this faction of this family is traveling in this direction, another faction is traveling in another direction, at the back of the book, you have a lineage of the different characters and where they come from, who's done what. So throughout the novel, you find yourself going back and forth. Another interesting thing that George R. R. Martin does is he withholds information, but he hints at where you need to look. For example, in order to understand the relationship between some of these families, it's not necessarily in the text of the novel, but it's in the subtext of the lineages at the back of the novel. So that creates an element of research, which is interesting because George R. R. Martin did an immense amount of research for these novels. But for the reader, it creates an engagement that is far beyond just passively reading passage after passage. You have to search and research and understand this character's brother did this, and this is who he was sleeping with, but this is who he was married to, and this is his son. It's so engaging and right in your face. If you start reading the novel, you're immediately impacted by the colorful dialogue and description of what's happening. But then as you get further and further in, you start to find these little hidden nuances that he hides in the map. He hides in the lineage. He hides in little innocuous pieces of dialogue that seem irrelevant. But as you progress, next couple hundred pages, oh wow, what he said made a big difference to the circumstances happening now. So Game of Thrones, highly recommend it. Now this was written in 1996, so it's quite a few years since its origins. But since then, of course, if you're into television, it's been adapted into a television series. Very popular, and for good reasons. It's quite popular. So, A Game of Thrones, Part 1 of A Song in Fire and Ice by George R. R. Martin. I'm going to give a highly praised 5 out of 5. I could not put this book down. I didn't want to put this book down. And I think if you pick it up, start reading it, you'll thoroughly enjoy it.